Hello everyone. This is Alex Lenderman. For a while I was giving you classes on either my games or some strong GM level games. Today I decided to do something a bit different and maybe a bit more fun. I wanted to bring myself back to when I was a kid also, and kind of kid roughly your level, so somewhere around between 22 and 2300. And why I think this is important is because you'll see how it's important how to be able to, let's say, recognize your weaknesses at an early level, how to be able to recognize the patterns, and that way you know what to work on, and and then become a better player by doing that. So the first game I want to show is the game I played with white against international master Jay Bonin. So as you could see with my FIDE rating, it's 2180 here. I was around USCS master. So, roughly your level player. So let's see how I was different back then and from the way I play now. Okay, so I was white. So this was game 30, but still this was a good sample game because it kind of illustrates, because it's not like I blundered anything, it was just positional mistakes. So let's get to it. So I was white. Yeah, and my opponent played a weird opening. He's known to sometimes playing sidelines to try to confuse his opponents. Here G4 is actually pretty interesting to really go for the initiative, given that black is underdeveloped. But okay, I mean, bishop e2 is... Oh, okay, interesting. Yeah, he sometimes does c6 and then a6 even. Yeah, with even... Yeah, so h3, bishop h5, a4. Okay, I wanted to stop b5. Not the best move, but not the worst move either. Knight d7, bishop e2, bishop takes, e5. And here, the first question, very simple question. There are four moves that white could consider here. d5, d takes e5, bishop e3, and castles. So the question is, which of these four moves we should not play? Which of these moves we should not play? So once again, d5, d takes, bishop e3. Make sure you guys type it to me in the chat, not to everyone, please. Some people are saying de, some people are saying d5. So all of you agree that we should not release tension with the pawn. Okay, most of you got it, of course. Yeah, of course, white should not play d takes e5 because that helps the bishop develop. And it also gives up control over the center, right? Because by playing de, we're trading off d4 pawn for the d6 pawn, right? We definitely don't want to do that, right? So that's a very bad idea. So d5 is a very reasonable move, gaining some space, preparing to castle. White's clearly better here with the bishop pair in the space. Also, castle and bishop e3 are normal moves. But for whatever reason, I guess I didn't have the concept of like controlling the center at that point or fighting for the center. I was like more of a just tactical player. Didn't really care so much about strategical moments, and I just played d takes e5. A very bad move, of course. Lost a big part of my advantage. Yeah, he took d takes e5, castles, a5. Okay, now this is a more serious moment. So this is actually a more serious question. What plan would you choose here? This is actually something that not a lot of people find. It's not so easy. White still is better, but he needs to find the right plan. But of course, the advantage has minimized. It was plus minus, now it's around plus equals, but still, what would be the plan? What should be white's plan? All right, so I see a lot of people want to improve the bishop on f3, which I guess could make sense. See if any other ideas. Trade off the knight. Okay, so bishop takes d7 somehow. Okay. Okay, everybody seems to want to move the bishop on f3. Okay, queen e2, rook d1, bishop e3. And so far, no one got the idea that I think is the best that the engine suggests. We'll look at all of these ideas, like bishop e2, bishop g4, but bishop g2, king f4. Okay, I mean, this is also knight e2, knight g3. Okay, let's see what anyone else. Yeah, so far, yeah, this one is a tough one. Because so far, b3 we have h4. Okay, let's see. Bishop g4, bishop d7. Somehow give knight to d6. Okay, that's here you're very close. Okay, now we're finding the right idea. Yes, Carlos. Yes, you got it. Actually, let me go ahead and unmute Carlos, and let's see if where is Carlos? Yeah, it's always hard to find so many people. Carlos Valera, where are you? Can't find you somehow.
I unmute myself.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so go ahead. Share your idea.
Yeah, I play knight b1 to like relocate the knight to d2 and maybe to c4 because it is pretty good, and I can do, I don't know, to e3, to play to f5, or controlling the b6 square and like control, because the knight on c3 is very bad because it cannot go to d5 and it isn't controlling at all our squares, and in c4 is pretty good.
Yep, very good. Exactly. Excellent job. Yeah, so another thing we have to keep in mind, and that's something that at some point I was taught by my coach, Georgi Kachishvili. He mentioned how it's very important that whenever there are no pawns on the d file, you have to make sure the most important squares to control are c4 and c5. If you control these two squares, white will usually be better. So remember, when there are no d pawns on the board, the c4 and the c5 squares actually become the most important. Of course, at that point, I had no idea, right? I was a very weak strategical player. But now, hopefully, I'll be able to figure out knight on b1 is bad, and I need to relocate it to try to get to c4. So knight b1 is very decent, and also queen e2, knight here, followed by knight d1, knight e3, knight c4. It's very reasonable. But the point is, we need to try to bring the knight to c4, and then we can see if where we're going to develop the bishop on c1. We might bring it to c3, e3, b2, right? Bishop has flexibility, the one on c1. But the knight, for sure, the square is c4. Because, for example, if we go here and there, it's going to be restricted by pawn on g6. And several of you suggested moving the bishop. But this, I don't think, really leads to very much, because I can go here, castle, and at some point you might even give up the e5 square with like e6, f4, and stuff like that. And f5 is also, nothing so special, and black is completely fine. So the thing is, it looks like white is ahead in development, needs to try to get initiative, but it's not easy to really gain initiative, because anytime you play f4, black just goes bishop c5, and black is completely fine. G3, bishop g2 probably is the most interesting of these, but still, it's nothing that special. It's just a fight. But yeah, repositioning the knight and then deciding what to do with other pieces would be a very good plan, right? And then you can try to see what to do with the bishop. Also, bishop e2, knight f6, bishop c4 was suggested, but then I think, again, we go bishop c5, castles, and again, it's nothing special. The knight on c3 is still not very good. The bishop on c4 maybe could get attacked at some point, so this also looks completely fine for black. Yeah, but I played bishop e3, and the reason this move is not so great is because I'm just encouraging bishop c5, exchange of bishops. So right away, I'm just losing my bishop pair. So it looks like a natural thing to do. Okay, let's just develop. But of course, in this case, I just have to trade off the bishop, right? So it's no real use. And eventually, we play this position, and black is, it's equal, comfortably equal. A little bit easier to play for black, I would say. And eventually, he was able to equalize. I mean, outplay me. I didn't play very precisely, and eventually he found a plan to grind me down. 98, 96, b5, and he makes the pass pawn. I ended up playing b4, and the rest is pretty straightforward. Reposition the knight, and he got back here, and okay, the rest is pretty simple. Alrighty, so that was the first game I wanted to show you. Let's look at some more. This was a game 30, but let's see how I would play long games. And of course, I don't have really these games saved. I just found them from the database. Luckily, these games made a database because, of course, I lost all my score sheets from back then. I was not a very responsible player. So, yeah, this one I was black. So you guys should try to be responsible with your score sheets and keep the game scores so that you will be able to reflect on them later on. But thankfully, at least I could find the ones in the database. Yeah, so this game I didn't really know the opening all that well, and got a slightly worse position. Well, yes. Nowadays there's chess base. Back then I don't. Okay, I guess there was already chess base, but it was like it was 2003 or something. So the engines were. I guess there was chess base, but I didn't really use it that much until 2005, 2006. Okay, so that's funny, yeah. Okay, so here, I guess the question is what to do with black. Should we play take on d4 or should we play bishop somewhere? What would be bishop a7? Let's see. Again, pretty simple question. Okay, let's get back on target here. Bishop a7 or take? Which one is better? Take and then bishop a7, bishop a7. Rook opens up. Okay, got it. Okay, so I believe the correct answer is bishop a7 immediately, because I think in this case, this rook, there's not that much you can do on that e file, and also it opens up the e file for him. But again, the main problem here is after bishop a7, after e takes d4, is that you're opening up his bishop. It can now go to g5, e3, right? You're helping his bishop develop. So again, you're exchanging e pawn for e pawn, right? So something you don't really want to do, right? So again, I did the same kind of thing as I did it against Jay Bonin. So the correct idea is bishop a7. 1 second, Austin, I'll answer your question. So bishop a7, and then something like knight e7, c6, and bishop b8. And, to relocate the bishop, and black has decent control over the center. In fact, Varakobian once outplayed me in a structure like this at the US Championship playoff in 2014. On the black side, he was. So you can check that game if you want. It wasn't exactly this line, but very similar. Yeah, this one is not as good. And yeah, you're saying something bishop f5 without e4. Oh, I see. Well, yeah, I mean, I guess. I mean, maybe. But the thing is, I think white just gets more. Like he gets like 95 and a lot. I think white just gets more. You know, yeah, bishop f5, I guess it's there, but I think the fact that we're helping the bishop develop, I think it's not such a good thing. Okay, I can turn on the engine and you guys will see. Yeah, as you can see, bishop a7 is a little bit better. Although he takes, yeah, of course I should have probably played here. Then b3, let's say. Bishop f5, h6. Yeah, I guess there's always king h2, so, or g4. So the bishop on f5 is not exactly stable either. And h5, let's say it's always bishop g5. So it's not that convincing. But okay, I understand your reasoning, but I think probably still better not to open up his bishop on c1. Okay, because also the thing is, if you ever play e4, there's this bishop gets opened up, right? So there's like e4 still has a drawback in these positions. I think pieces is still the most important in chess. So I ended up taking, and here after bishop g5, you would have gotten like much better position. And that's kind of what happened. You got a much better structure here. Okay, later on I managed to trick him and beat and I won, but that's beyond the point. Position is strategically almost winning for him. I have all these bad light squares and he has a very strong bishop on g2, so it's not very good. But what I was always good at is I managed to create some tricks. Like rook c8, then I played a4, you know, like if this, knight a5. So I was good at finding these little cheap ideas, right? I was strategically not very sound, but I was very good practical player at that time. Yeah, and here he kind of had to calculate some lines, but he didn't manage to find the best idea. He was also just 2200, so he obviously gave chances. Yeah, game is like complicated. And like around here, he was still much better or winning with like knight takes c8 or queen a5. But he played the wrong move, knight takes f5, and I guess he blundered this rook c1 followed by queen f2. And then I go a2 and a. So yeah, I think he might have been in time pressure and he blundered and okay, he played this and then I went here and then I won. So that's how I would win a lot of my games at that time, right? That's like strategically not great, but then I would swindle people. Okay, so let's keep going. Let's see the next game. Again, it's a game I won, but again, a game where we should definitely be critical of how I played. Okay, some of you might play this, so do you guys know what the best move for white is here?
Oh, yeah. Oh shoot, I'm not muted.
Oh, it's okay.
Sorry, I forgot this is...
I see. Okay, looks like you guys know this. Yeah, it's okay, don't worry. Queen d3. Queen d3 is correct move, yeah. Okay, at that point, I didn't know the theory. Queen d3 is the best move. e5, I think, is not as good because you can go knight e4. And bishop g5, that's a mistake because I can take and go queen a5. Yeah, queen d3 is a strong move. Okay, anyway, that's a little bit of an opening. So I played queen c2, knight c6, takes. All right, what do you guys think white should do now? Okay, looks like you guys are correct. Yeah, e5. White should, of course, challenge the center. Yeah, and white is better in these lines. Knight g4, a3, bishop c5, knight e4, and white ends up being better because if knight e5 you have castles, and bishop e5, rook d1. So black is kind of behind on development. Yeah. So yeah. So this looks yeah, e5 was very strong. Even a3 is not bad, but e5 I think is the strongest. Yeah, I played bishop g5, which is not so good. It's a very kind of lazy move, and I made a lot of these kind of moves. I still make a lot of these moves now, but especially as a kid, I made these moves a lot. just let's just develop a piece, without thinking long term. Yeah, so a3, bishop e7, rook d1, queen c7, bishop e2, bishop e6, castles, knight a4, b6, bishop e3, rook knight d7. Okay, my opponent played like not the best moves here. So the question is, what should white do here? Mr. Man, Joshua Man, can you unmute yourself? I can't seem to find you on Zoom again. To unmute. Yeah. Go ahead, explain your answer.
Okay, so my move was rook takes d7. Mm-hmm. So pretty much giving up the piece, the rook for the knight and a pawn, and you get like a lot of long-term compensation. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, very good. Yeah, because bishop takes d7, you go knight b6, and after rook d8, you go c5. Yeah, and what's happening, the knight on b6 is very strong. It kind of dominates the rook, and then we're going e4, e1, and potentially threatening on a6. And yeah, the compensation is very strong. In fact, sacrificing pawn for exchange is usually exchange for a pawn is usually, it's like sacrificing less than a pawn. But especially in a position like this where he can't really use open files for the rook. Exactly, you can't really use it. So that's why this is very good for white. Yeah, again, these are the kinds of things I didn't really understand at that time. So I played c5 would also be some advantage, but I just played very prosaically, like rook d2, rook c8, rook d1, very kind of straightforward chess. And now I played for a tactic, knight d5, but here it's actually not as good. Bishop d8, c5, and I think I sort of blundered here. Like I might have missed f5 here. Yeah, because he's threatening f4. So like I could have still played knight b6 and sacrificing this pawn, but I ended up playing f3, and I might have missed bishop f5. So I think I was blundering in this game also a few things. And here I played c6. So I kind of, thought practical chance. And now I guess the question is, should we take c2 or should we, do something else? Take on c2 or do something else? Well, actually, right this moment, he blundered and I was already better. So it's still a tricky position. If you don't find the right idea, if you don't find the right move, then you're going to be not better. So bishop b6 and rook c2 look good. Okay, well, one of these moves, you have to choose one of these moves because these two moves aren't meant alike. Yeah, let's not be lazy here. We have to calculate. Okay, so we have queen a8, knight b8. Okay, so it seems like nobody wants to take on c2. Does anyone want to take on c2? Okay, people want bishop b6 now. Okay. Pin is mightier than a sword. It's funny. Okay, so here's the thing, right? Like if you're playing, like, I don't know, queen a8, queen c7, you know, white will probably go bishop d3. And in this case, I'll have compensation for the piece. I mean, I'll have two monstrous pawns. And with these two pawns, it's going to be very hard for you to play. I mean, maybe you're not worse, but white will definitely have a lot of compensation here. So moves like that are not convincing at all. White will definitely have a lot of play here. Will he be better? I don't know, but he'll have a lot of play. However, the first move you should calculate in such position is bishop c2, you know, principled move. You know, what happens if you actually just take on c2? Because now taking the queen is more or less forced. Now the pawn structure gets messed up. So if concretely this works, then black will be completely fine. Right? And here it turns out you can go rook c7. And after d6, you can go rook c6. Now the c6 square is free. And after rook c1, you have bishop e4. Concrete, bishop e4. And black wins. Black is winning. However, you needed to calculate until bishop e4, because if you don't see bishop e4, it's not so easy. So you have to kind of always check the most obvious move, right, without stopping the variation too soon, right? But I think my opponent, maybe he trusted me a little bit, maybe he just didn't trust his calculation a lot, and he ended up going bishop b6, which is also a very interesting try. And I didn't see bishop b6, by the way. But luckily for me, I had a strong continuation. So who wants to try to find what white should do here? Well, Zephyr, you should not have said it to everyone, but okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, of course it's queen f5. Queen f5, and what happens after bishop f2? All right, let's get back on focus. Yes, king f1, of course. Yeah, king f2 would be queen b6. Yes, so king f1. And now white is getting the piece back. And it's white who ends up being better, because he has this passed pawn, he has the open file, and black's pawns are not going anywhere. So rook f6. And now, what should white's plan be going forward? How would you try to convert this? Because here I was converting this position very badly. Okay, so I think people are getting it right. The best way is to play d6. And yes, you do want to stack the bishop to e4, but it's better to play d6 first, because otherwise your passed pawn could be blocked with some rook d6. So let's play d6, ensure that the bishop will not get stuck. And then we have also rook c7 idea. And white is winning more. For example, this move is met by rook c7, which is a very important tactical point. If the knight moves, we have d7. And yeah, it's very hard for black to find anything great to do. White is winning pretty much easily. Like you have ideas like rook c6 and rook c7. Bishop comes to the game. And, effectively, white's like a pawn up, because black can't really use his majority right now. And black's pieces are uncoordinated. But this move is actually very bad. It blows a big part of my advantage. Because now after rook b6, it's not as easy. My pawn gets blockaded. Rook c1, king f7, and now I made a horrible move. I played rook takes b6. I should have still played something like this and rook c6, and still I have like a dominating position. Why on earth I decided to exchange my active rook for his passive rook, I have no idea. So very bad, right? It's not really thinking about, let's say, consequences of trading, right? And because in chess, every time you exchange a piece, right, you're changing the course of the game. So you have to always take some time and try to really weigh the pros and cons, you know, about such a decision. But here I just played a very lazy move. Rook takes b6. And I figured it's not a blunder. How bad can it be? But yes, it can be very bad. And in fact, very often, if those of you who study games with the engine, sometimes a positional mistake, a serious positional mistake, strategical mistake, could be worse than, let's say, hanging a pawn or even hanging a piece. Sometimes if you make a very bad positional move, it can go from, let's say, +2, +3 in your favor to like -1 in his favor. It's happens a lot in chess. So h4, king e7, h5, knight f6, takes, and now bishop e4, g5. This was already fine for him. But here I'm still trying to win. And I should still play rook c8, but I played rook g7. Mistake. g4. Now his king gets into d4, and my pawn is still getting blockade. So this is getting worse and worse. And I already started to feel like something is like going a bit wrong. Okay, I played king e2. And here, if he plays the right move, for example, rook d6, this is winning for him. Like he's going to go g3 at some point, king d4, threatening knight e4. Black is winning here. It's like -3 according to the bench. Yeah. g3 first, yeah, maybe that works too. I don't remember. But here I was lucky. He played knight takes e4. I can turn on the engine. You'll see. If you don't believe me, I'll turn on the engine. You see, -3. g3. Yeah, g3 is also decent. But there's king d3. Maybe, yeah. So for some reason, this is a little bit stronger. Because after this, there's knight e4. So I guess this is better because it also creates a threat. Yeah. So this is, yeah. So anyway, so rook d6 was very strong. Yeah, he played knight e4, b4, and he can still fight with king d4, but he blundered twice. Yeah, I guess he just got tired, and he just lost, right? So that was how I was winning games when I was a kid, So you could see why these games are actually instructive. Yeah, actually, what the interesting thing is, I that's looking back at these games, I start to believe that perhaps the level of chess has just gotten much higher. I really think that 2200 FIDE back into that 20 years ago when I was a kid is roughly equivalent to around 2000 now. That's what I firmly think. Well, now there's also the pandemic, but that's different, whole different animal. But I'm saying even like, let's say 2019, that's yeah. Okay, so let's continue. Let's look at the next game. Okay, this game I also won. But the opening I didn't play so well. I didn't really know the opening so well. So I played this, which is fine, but here I didn't really know what to do. And I played knight c6. Yeah, I played against Catalan this game. I think I barely knew what it even was. At that time, I didn't really know openings very well. Queen takes c4, queen d5. At that time, I had very bad openings. Queen d5, queen d3. First of all, this is 2200 FIDE, and this is 2100 USCS. Okay, so queen d3. Again, I abandoned the center kind of very easily, which was bad. And then I played some more dubious chess. I kind of gave up the bishop pair. I should have at least gone queen h5. But anyway, I wanted to get to the fun part where I swindled the guy. Funnily enough, in this tournament, I got my first IM lore. This was a tournament in Hungary. I won a lot of games like this, and I ended up getting an IM norm, my first one, even though I was 2200 FIDE. So anyway, clearly, as you could see, he's completely outplaying me. He has 2 bishops, and now he's winning the exchange. So clearly, it's like getting worse and worse. Okay, soon we're gonna get to a critical moment. Okay, let's stop here. Okay, what would you guys would do here? So you have a winning position, you know that you're winning. How would you try to convert this? No, this up to here he played fine, but this is where he made a mistake. Obviously, knight takes c7 is tempting, so it's a move you should consider. All right, let's stay on target, please. You guys can talk about this other stuff later. Let's please stay on topic. Let's try to find the best idea for white here. Okay, so a lot of people want to play knight takes c7. So that's actually what my opponent played, and we'll take a look at that in a second. Let's see if anyone gave a right idea yet. Maybe just a4. So I think what Austin is saying, maybe he's right. Maybe a4 immediately was the most practical move. But I think here, if you play a4, I guess you can play d4, at least to try to activate the bishop. And after this move, maybe bishop d5. Somehow it feels like black is getting a little bit of counterplay. Maybe also c5. Pawn takes knight c6. It doesn't look that bad anymore, at least. So I think there's a little bit better option. And you kind of don't want to just give b5, right? So I don't think anyone has found this idea. Okay, it looks like Megan found it, but yeah, please don't type it to everyone. But let's call on her. Unmute.
Well, I think rook g3 trying to have some back rank like mating,
Mm-hmm.
and because it's like hard to defend it.
Yes.
So,
very. Yeah, keep going.
So like because the only way to try to defend it, example, if he plays bishop a8, rook g8, king b7, and then there's like knight d8.
Right. Yeah, that's very ugly for black. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, rook g3 would have been very strong. I think I would have put king b8 to try to free the c8 square, but still after check, and then knight goes back to d4. Now there is no more counterplay with rook g7, rook e8. He should win very easily. This is just complete domination. So yeah, rook g3. In general, you should first always look at forcing moves before positional moves. So knight takes c7 and rook g3, I would first calculate. If these moves don't work, then I would look at other moves. But yeah, rook g3 was very strong. He played knight takes c7. It's still winning, but it's already getting messy. What do you guys think black should do now? So let's try to find counter chances for black. Bishop c6 I don't think would be good because takes rook c7, rook e8. And please don't type it to everyone. Please type it directly to me. We don't want everyone to get the answer. If you play d4 immediately, I don't think that works because I give a check, and then I can take, and then I can give check, right? So that should be, maybe there's even something better. Oh yeah, there's 96 even. Yeah, so that's just loses d4. King d8 also loses pretty easily because check and knight c5. That's not. Rook c7 does not work because then we give a check, and then we give this check, and then we take here. And that's more or less losing pretty routinely. Take on b7, take on b6, that should not be a very right. But black has a good idea. Let's see if anyone found it. So far, nobody has found it, I think. King b8, no, then just rook e8, and then knight a6. It's just kind of still losing. If black has to play king move or something passive, then knight c7 would have just been game over, and then we end the discussion. But how about let me call on Austin for a second. Austin, do you want to unmute? Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
My idea was to play rook g7, and he can't play king h1 because d4. So he has to play king f1, but then we can play d4 anyways. And then if rook e8 check, we can play king d7. Very
good, exactly. And that's why I called on you. I wanted you to also demonstrate this d4 idea. Yeah, so that's the whole point. You play rook g7 first, and then you play d4. Austin, can you tell us also what to do after rook c4?
Bishop g2, king e2, and then you can take the knight.
Very good. Exactly. Yeah, because after king g1, you go here, and after king e2, you take here. And that's actually what he blundered. So rook c4 was already a losing move. He was still winning here, but he had to find... knight e6 was not so clear. This was messy. Because I'm getting past pawns, I have this bishop. This would be tricky. But rook e8 and rook d8 was the way to play. Because then he can play rook c7 and rook g7. But you see, this is already like much harder than like the win he had earlier with rook g3. So you see how if you miss the first idea, then it gets harder and harder. And now he played rook c4, and he missed this trick. And now he's suddenly losing. And by a miracle, and now I was able to convert this little by little. Yeah, and from actually the engine was pretty happy with my technique. So I wasn't sure, but I was pretty happy that at least the conversion was good. So that's actually something I also always did pretty well. Winning positions, I would usually be would have been pretty good. I mean, I usually was pretty good at converting winning positions. Okay, let's continue. This game I want to skip. Yeah, now I want to show you a loss I had. And this loss also kind of exemplifies of how I was at that level. So I used to actually play King's Indian sometimes. I mean, actually, as a kid, King's Indian was my main opening. And I think after this game, actually, I lost another game in the same tournament in the King's Indian. And then I lost this game. And after that tournament, I actually quit the King's Indian, which maybe in retrospect was a mistake. Maybe I should have kept playing it and kept developing my dynamic senses, which now I feel like I'm seriously lacking at. But yeah, because clearly the problem wasn't necessarily the opening, it was just like my way of thinking at certain positions. Now, in this position, what do you guys think Black's plan should typically be? Well, nowadays it's actually harder to play King's Indian because there's just people prepare so much, right? And it's like, but the thing is, it's I quit it like completely, right? It might like say make sense not to play only it, right? Because in normal events, obviously people will prepare. So if you only play one opening, you're like a little bit of a sitting duck, especially if you play like same line there. But the problem is I quit it completely, right? And that maybe was a mistake. H3, G4. H3, G4, I don't know. Actually, I think there Black gets interesting fight. But okay, that's already an opening discussion. I don't like opening discussions here. Oh, I mean, I'm not a King's Indian expert by any means, but I actually learned to appreciate it more now than I did in the past. I used to think it was just completely bad opening, but I have friends who play it very successfully, and they make me believe that it's actually not so bad. And Fabio recently beat me in the US Championship with it, so what do I know? It's still not bad from us to win games. Okay, so what do you guys think Black should play here? Yeah, e6 or b5, right? I think somebody said, few people said e6. B5 is also reasonable, something like that. Yeah, I mean, b5 I think is very reasonable, like trying to play like a Benko. Or e6 is actually the main line. To try to take, and then maybe play queen a5, right? Something like that. I have to challenge the center, activate my pieces, and play like a Benoni structure. And Black should be okay. I don't know if you should include h6 or not, but either way, something along those lines. Well, Benoni structure, I'm talking about like if he takes. I'm not saying like bishop should be in g5 and Benoni, although sometimes it is. Sometimes it is. There are lines with the bishop on g5. Oh, I see what you're saying. Well, could be either way, right? But I mean, it's probably okay for Black. Anyway, so I played queen a5, bishop d2, not such a good idea. Now I played knight a6. So I kind of just didn't do anything with that center. I just kind of let it sit there. And as a result, you know, I just tried to, okay, do something, but I simply gave up the center, let him play e5, let him go bishop f4. And now he went knight b5, and he's just squeezing me. Just got a lost position, just didn't lost without counterplay. You know, now e7 became very weak. Knight on a6 is misplaced, and I just didn't manage to create counterplay, right? And usually in chess, when you have a space disadvantage, you have to create counterplay. You have to do something, challenge the center, and activate your pieces. But I didn't do that, right? And that's why I just lost very badly. And I lost to a guy who was like in last place, too, you know, and which was of course very bad. Okay, so let's see another game. So these games will skip. Okay, this one actually is an instructive one. This was a game I played at the World Youth Championship. And I played against you know, future GM. This guy's also future GM. It's around 2,600 now. Linchevsky from Russia. Yeah, we actually played a theoretical line in the Sveshnikov, and here he played a little bit of a sideline with bishop e6. Of course, the main line is b5. He played bishop e6. It's actually playable. Knight c4, rook c8. Maybe that's actually not the best move, but okay, I don't want to dive into theory here. Bishop takes f6, queen takes f6, knight b6. Yeah, so here I got a big advantage. c3, g6. Okay, critical moment here. What should I do here? My opponent kind of misplayed the opening. Let's try to find the best way to get an advantage. Naranyan Venkatesh, can you please unmute yourself?
Okay. So queen a4 was what I was thinking, because you're threatening something like bishop a6 next, and
Yep.
it's just hard to. And if you play something like bishop d7, you just take, and queen cannot take because of knight f6.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's actually that simple. It's very hard to deal with this move. Yeah. So okay, bishop g7 maybe, but still can take, and I think it's knight d5, rook a8. Yeah, it might be queen b5. I mean, you have to do a little calculation here, but it kind of works well for white. Yeah. The bad thing is I remember like my coach there, Aviv Friedman, was asking, me about Queen A4, and I just somehow didn't even look at it. Somehow didn't even consider. So you have to always consider tactical ideas, especially if your opponent is underdeveloped. That's a very, very important lesson. I mean, there are certainly many good positional ideas here. Like the move I played is not bad also, Bishop C4. But Queen A4 was a kind of a golden opportunity to like already get like a nearly winning position. 2200 as black, really? Well, I mean, back then, people didn't really know theory as well. And, he just, he didn't know the opening that deeply, right? He kind of played a little bit over the board. And actually Russians, when they're younger, they are taught not so much openings, but just how to play chess in general, right? And they kind of learn openings a bit later. So that's why, it makes sense. He was like this. And especially back in the day, people didn't have as good prep as now in general. So that was because the computers were very weak and some people didn't, have computers. So, okay, so I played Bishop C4, Bishop G7, castles. And now I played A4, A5 plan. So I kind of knew the plan reasonably well, I guess. I was prepared. I think Aviv Friedman helped me prepare, but I missed that Queen A4 opportunity. So King H8, Queen E2, F5. Okay, so should we take or not take? Yes, very good. F3 was the best move. I took. How should black recapture? With a pawn, of course, right? And the funny thing is, for this kind of pawn capture, G takes F5, there's been a saying called every Russian schoolboy knows to like take with the G pawn, bolstering the center. And the ironic thing is, he was a Russian schoolboy and he didn't know, and he played Bishop takes F5, which I found to be very ironic. Yeah, and now, because nowadays, of course, people know things much better. But back in the day, people didn't have as good of a chess culture, I think, in a way, because now everybody knows everything. So, okay, now the question is, what should white? Oh, yes, if G takes F5, white play F4. I mean, he can, but you can play E4. Position is double-edged. Still, white could be better, but that's not the point. G takes F5 is still the better option of the two. Now, what should white play here? Last important critical moment for today. G4 seems a bit dangerous, a bit weakening. Go Bishop E6. All right, Austin's got it, but let's see if anyone else has a suggestion. A5 is what I played. We'll see shortly why it's not as good. H4, H5, I think won't work because I can take queen takes H4. Looks too risky. Okay, yes, so looks like people are getting it. So yes, the correct move is, of course, F3. And the main reason for that is you're just stopping E4. Because E4 is a very important move for him, right? After E4, he activates knight and the bishop, activates his pieces, right? Piece activity in chess is very important. So white plays F3. And then he wants to go bishop D3, bishop E4, A5. White will be strategically winning very soon, right? Of course, black can still try E4, but this is not quite the same thing. I can play bishop D3. Yeah, actually, the best move might even be bishop d3. I think bishop d3 is even better, actually, because you're still stopping e4, but you're not even weakening yourself. Yeah, let's just check with the engine very quickly. I think it's actually, yeah, bishop d3 was the best move. Yeah, f3 is the second best move, still better than what I played, but I like bishop d3 even better because now e4 is really not working at all. You're gonna have to actually trade the bishops off also if you want to weaken my pawn structure. And otherwise, I'm going to go bishop e4, f3, a5, and I'm just going to have a light square domination and playing against your very bad bishop. Yeah, so bishop d3, I believe, is even better. But either way, you want to try to stop e4, right? But unfortunately, I didn't even think in that direction. I was only thinking about my idea here. I played a5, and now after e4, the game became complicated. And later on, after some adventures, Black made a draw in this game. And so yeah, this was also a very instructive game. Okay, so I've shown you like maybe 5, 6, 7 of my games when I was a kid, like around 13, 14 years old, 22, 2300 level USCF. Who wants to make some conclusion? Like, let's say you're my coach at that time, and I would show you all these games. What would you tell me as a good coach? Because some of you might be good coaches someday also. So what would you guys suggest me to improve on? If you saw such games. Or let's say if these are your games, what would you tell yourself that you need to work on to play better? Okay, work on positional aspect, trades, piece activity, very good. Think more positionally, look at what your opponent's trying to do. Well, don't go for cheap trick. Well, no, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, if you're losing, you have to try cheap tricks, right? How to like avoid getting a lost position. And suggest improving the positional theory, okay. Don't obscure your vision on the whole board. In other words, don't focus your sight to one board while looking at the entire board. Work on the value of the pieces based on position. Yes, I like that. Calculation and maneuvering. Yeah, calculation I think was not so bad these games, but maneuvering to positional play, yeah. Piece activity, very good. Candidate moves, dynamic play, very good. Yeah, positional play. Yeah. Saccharizing stuff, yeah, I mean, I guess I missed the exchange sack and positional one game. Yeah, I would say there are kind of a few things. Of course, I didn't really value piece activity very much back then. And to some extent, that's still a little bit of my weakness now. I also didn't value strategical things that well, like which pieces to trade. I didn't value the center nearly enough, right? Nobody kind of emphasized, I don't think anyone emphasized that, but the center is the big thing that I didn't really pay enough attention to the center. I would exchange on e5 very easily, right? I would let him play e4. I just didn't appreciate the center. And I didn't even show you like all of the games. There were other games which were like that as well, right? And yeah, I was a little bit, yeah, I didn't really think about consequences of trades, right? And yeah, and you know, there are certainly a lot of other things as well. And I noticed, you know, when I was looking back at these games, I started to think about my chess now, and I start to realize that to some extent I have a little bit of these weaknesses even still. You know, because usually whatever you kind of have a problem with as a kid, you know, you kind of build a habit, right? You build a certain habit, and then it's hard to completely get rid of it, right? So that's why if some of you has, let's say, a weakness in chess, let's say it's time pressure or playing too fast, or, you know, not thinking about the center or not thinking about pieces or whatever else it may be, if you feel like you have a pattern in your game, so you have a bad habit of something, really try your best to think about it more and work on it. Because if you kind of don't think about it enough now as a kid, it might end up kind of becoming a problem as an adult player, which kind of happened to me. So basically that's the That's the idea. And yes, I did make a video, Alex loses sense of danger at the St. Louis Chess for my greatest losses. The first game was the one against Jay Bonin, where I took on e5 too early. Anyway, so I hope you guys enjoyed this lesson. I mean, I figured, something a little bit more fun and relatable, and if this was enjoyable, I can do another one similar, because I have plenty of more very good examples from when I was much weaker, so that you guys can kind of make fun of my play. Okay, I'll next time I'll do more of these games. Okay, see you guys. Bye bye.